Today, I'm getting a little bit vulnerable. It's been a long time since I've shared some of my own personal stories, and I just feel that it's the right time to speak about how I overcame my self-esteem issues and really fully embodied feminine confidence. Notice I said feminine, because I'm seeing a lot of women online talking about confidence, and it's still coming from more of a masculine place. And I want to slightly course correct the conversation around confidence and bring it back home what it really looks like for women. I'm talking how to master the art of feminine confidence today. My self-esteem issues started happening, like most of you probably, in your childhood. This is normal. This is what happens, okay? For me, I grew up questioning everything about who I was because I compared myself to my sister, who was highly intelligent and highly gifted in so many areas around creativity, writing, expression, full-on school, okay? So I saw her getting trophies and awards, and I saw the attention that they got. I saw the pride, obviously, that my parents would have in that. And it started me thinking, I wonder if I'm going to get those same things. Now, as I got into school, I started off doing pretty well, and I was like one of the people who was at the top of the class, and I was getting those gold stars in the spelling tests, and I was at the high level reading group. Everything was going well until it didn't. And I didn't start to get the same grades as everybody else was as things got harder. So as I went up the levels, I started getting lower grades, and it still seemed easy for those people, but for me, it was a struggle. And it questioned my whole identity of enoughness. Put to that a whole bunch of experiences of being questioned why I couldn't get certain grades like some other people. And then as I went on in my life, this whole comparison thing really took over. I saw people who had talents and gifts, for example, artistically, and the teachers really praising them. And so seeing, they're not good at school, but they're good at art, and they get praised for that. And then I'd look over here and someone was really good at sports and they were getting praised by the teachers. And so I would try my hardest to be good at sports, and I thought, this time something's going to change and they're going to notice me. They're going to see me. And they didn't. And as I went through my life, I never felt seen. I never felt good enough. And then I started to look at, who are the girls getting the attention from guys? Same thing. It was like, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing extraordinary about me. I'm just kind of meh. And that isn't a fun place to be, because then what is the joy in your life? What is the hope for your life? Where does the confidence come from? The courage to go out after your dreams? They didn't. Inside, Erin had tremendous dreams. I would daydream. I would see myself on stages, giving speeches and teaching and talking and doing great things. And in my real life, it was meh. I used to see myself as someone really beautiful and special. And in my real life, looking in the mirror or going out there and presenting myself, and nothing coming back from the people that I wanted it to come back from. Opportunities would come into my life, like going to a Quebec trip, and me not feeling courageous enough to do it because I wasn't going to be good enough. Those people who were going for it, they must be good enough because they're going. There were so many things that I never went for. I never allowed myself to do because I would always hang back in case I wasn't seen as good enough. Can you relate? I know there's so many out there that can relate because I coach women, and even the women who are at the pinnacle of their success, They are struggling, thinking that it's going to be taken away at any moment if they don't keep working so hard. So you see people out there and you think, oh God, they must be the most confident people in the world. No. That's kind of the backstory. And I will be sharing more of that story, but that's for another time. You're here because you're wanting to know, how did you overcome that? What happened, first of all, was what usually happens in life. When you have dreams and desires inside, the universe knows that. The universe gets on board and says, follow me. I got your back. I know exactly what you need to be able to become a vibrational match, which we talked about last week, right? To be able to attract what you want. So it provided me with some very uncomfortable situations. And many of you know my story, but if you're new here, you may not, that I got married at a very young age when I knew I didn't want to, when I knew I shouldn't, but I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and so I went ahead anyway and got married. Ugh. So in that marriage, things turned pretty bad pretty soon. I really came to the point where I had to leave that marriage because it was getting very, very abusively dysfunctional. And because I left that situation, I started having more freedom. And I started to try things and live out this life of Erin that I'd never been able to live because I was always living for other people. Their happiness. What do they want from me? Who do they want me to be? And instead, I got to decipher who is Erin. And so when you hear me talking about the formula to feminine confidence is knowing what you are and who you are, you have to have practice of knowing who you are. What do I like? What do I not like? What kind of person do I want to spend my life with? Who do I not want? Who do I want to be in a relationship? And who do I just not want to be in a relationship? What kind of things bring me pleasure? What kind of things bring me joy? What do I really want to do in my life? What is my destiny? What is my calling? What are my desires? All of these kind of things make me who I am. And then once you start knowing who you are and you start fully expressing it, life starts gifting you with tremendous joy. And then you see through experience, oh, so when I do those things that feel so good, this is what happens. When I be this person, this is what happens. When I make choices from this place, this is what I get. And so I made choices along the way, one being the decision to move to France, a lifelong dream that I had put off and let everybody else do instead of me. But this time it was going to be me. That year transformed my life. I had relationships with men who were quality men, who were high value men, who taught me what it really feels like to be loved. It taught me my style was okay. It wasn't boring. It was just who I was. Being a small-chested woman and absolutely owning that and being okay. Learning what my USP was and celebrating that. Like that whole year in France gifted me so much. And then I came home and a whole new level of confidence needed to come in because now I'm like all secure with myself, so I think, and I needed to go to level 2. So what started to happen was that certain people were coming into my life, my current husband being one of them, and he just like wanted to spend all of his time with me. And I was not used to how much time he could spend with me. He loved talking, he loved cuddling, he loved doing anything and everything, watching artsy films. And I mean, like he didn't want to be away from me. And I could not own the fact at this point that that was too much for me. And it caused a lot of internal chaos because it was smothering to me and I didn't want to hurt him. A pattern that hadn't gone away, I guess. So I kept letting him kind of creep into my space and I didn't know how to set boundaries. Funny enough, He was the one that taught me how to set boundaries with people at work. So I had situations come through at work where people were being difficult. It was a school I was teaching at, and there was one librarian who was very pernickety, and I won't go into the whole story, but I had a moment with the librarian, and I finally used my husband's technique that said, yes, you can be a nice person, but sometimes you have to show your teeth so that they know where to stand with you, that you don't put up with that kind of stuff. So when you hear me talking about the analogy of the rose, right, with the soft feminine flower, yet those prickly thorns, they're there to help you set the boundaries. I had to practice that. Setting boundaries was a huge, huge thing for me. That when you start honoring yourself in that way, you gain this muscle that says, I trust that I will take care of myself. And that is very, very empowering. So now we've got, in my confidence formula, we've got me owning who I am and what I want and what's cool and unique about me, and just being that and owning it and loving it and feeling free to finally love and own it. And then we've got the part where I started setting boundaries. Like, this is what I will tolerate and this is what I will not tolerate. Okay, what was the third step? So level 3 was me truly at the visceral, energetic level, knowing what I am, really owning my personal power. And this is something that didn't come through the other things. This was like in the center core, energetic beingness of me. What am I? And what am I here for? And what's the power of me? The other 2 levels allowed me to get ready to receive this teaching, but this was one of the hardest times in my life. This is when you hear me talking about me getting very down and depressed. What was going on in my life at the time was that I had young children. I had just gone through 4 pregnancies, moving countries like 3 times. There was a lot going on in my life at the time. But in between all of that, I was trying to start up a business and run a business. It was a parent coaching business. I had written a book and I was turning it into parent coaching business because I always had such success helping parents and dealing with children so that their self-esteem was really high, okay? So this was my specialty and my interest since I was a little kid. So what happened was I had enough courage to write the book, and I was even so good that I was going to start trying to get noticed for my book by writing articles for magazines. And so I took this adult education course on how to write articles and pitch them to magazines. So I was going to pitch to the Oprah magazine, and I wrote this article, and I felt so good about this article. I handed it in and the teacher didn't like it. And it was the first time, ladies, the first time, I could almost cry saying this, that I didn't believe his word. I knew it was good, and that was all that mattered. Just because he had his opinion didn't mean it was the opinion, didn't mean it was the right opinion. It was the first time I said, well, too bad. I took that article and I posted it on online article websites. And so there's certain websites where you can submit your articles, and people from magazines, people from other blogs would come and search for articles on certain topics. And then they would take your information and put it on their blog or put it in their newspaper or their magazine. And it was amazing. I became known all over. People like, you probably know Dr. Mercola. They used that article. There was another famous one called Self-Growth Articles on the Mind Body Green website. I was interviewed for radio stations all over America on that article. And one of the most prestigious national newspapers of Israel, called The Calculist, did a personal interview with me and made a full-page feature on me with that article. So here's the thing. I was being seen. I was being respected. Yes. And yet I could not make enough money to support myself with my business. And that was so frustrating to me. And I kept telling my husband that when I make the money, then I'm going to feel good enough. I mustn't be good enough. But then I was looking at all these other parenting sites, and these people were being looked at as experts and they were making money. But I'm like, I actually give better advice than them. Like, that's not even that great. So I was questioning, why would they be getting the clients and me not? There has to be something wrong with me. So maybe, Erin, you just really aren't good enough, even though you think you are. Maybe this is false confidence. And I went so deep into a severe depression. I would sit at home on the couch. Friends would come over, travel distances to come visit us, and I would just talk to them and be crying and sobbing because I didn't understand what was so wrong with me that I couldn't make this a proper business. So ladies, I absolutely get it. If you're dealing with any kind of issue with self-worth, for being able to get paid for your services, to put your prices at certain rates and know that you are valuable at that rate, I've had a lot of work to do. I had to get professional help. And then a friend of ours had told us that this retreat was going to be happening. So I went to this spiritual retreat, and it was at that spiritual retreat that I connected energetically with the source of what we all are. And no, there was no ayahuasca. It was profound. It gave me the absolute understanding of how this universe works, what this universe is, and most importantly, that I am it. There is no God outside of me. I am part of it. And because I'm part of it, then I just have to focus my energy and attention on clearing and releasing anything that is blocking that. And also focusing my attention on always connecting back to it. When you are connected to it, you cannot have any doubt of what you are. But it's a practice. And even though I had that incredible experience, it's still there and it will never go away. Yet it can be clouded sometimes when life takes over, responsibilities takes over. And so you have to come back to your practice. And that's why I say that the elegant life is a lifestyle, including some routines and rituals. One of them being clearing and reconnecting. So now, once I had that, I knew who I was and I fully owned it and I expressed it. Number 2, I was able to set boundaries and teach people how to treat me. This is what I will tolerate and this is what I will not. This is what I want for my life and this is what I don't want. And third of all, knowing what I was gave me such a peace and an ability to surrender and flow and co-create with the universal energy that I am. We're in constant communication and it is guiding me with so many different things and in so many different ways. And that trifecta is how I have gained the feminine confidence that I have now. And you're probably thinking that it stopped there, but actually it deepened even more, as it always does and always will. So the next step was when my husband and I were having some issues and I really was starting to question things. And that was my entry point into feminine energy. I was working with someone and she said, Erin, you're really being from your masculine energy too much. You need to be in your feminine. And I was like, huh? What does that mean? I had no idea. And then how are you supposed to shift into that? What does that all mean? So I went down the rabbit hole and I fully embodied my feminine energies, which is a constant practice, let me tell you. But that deepened me. And now I don't have confidence. I have confidence. You see, there's a different energy to that as well. So ladies, that was my path from low self-esteem to beautiful, elevated feminine confidence. Am I continuously going to new levels? Absolutely. And I know that will continue. Where are you on your journey? I don't know. But the thing I do know is the path that will get you there. Because it hasn't just worked for me, it's worked for every woman that I have coached or has gone through my Elegant Art to Feminine Confidence program. And they're deepening and their lives are opening up, and it's this continuous experience. So I hope hearing my journey made you feel comforted that you are not the only one who feels certain things, that you're not the only one who's ever doubted yourself, and that it also gave you hope that, wow, I can get past this. I can move past this. Maybe what could be possible for my life if I started to embody and understand and practice what Erin did. Wow. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I really recommend, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, please do, because this is the focus of the Elegant Life. I empower you to be able to live and manifest your most exquisite life. And one of the pathways to that is mastering and embodying feminine confidence. Come back next week where I've got a very beautiful video planned for you. We'll see you then.